And what is up, everybody, to episode 150. We hit it, the 1.5 mark. This is kind of crazy. I got to be honest with you. I was never expecting to get this far when we did this, but I'm super happy we did. How you doing, Connor?
Are you truly happy that we did? I
Yeah, I
feel
get
like
to yell.
I
I
feel
get to
like a
yell at you at least once a week.
I feel like a part of you definitely isn't as happy.
No, I'm thrilled about it. I love sitting here and chatting this league and sharing my opinions and then going onto Twitter and yelling at people about how their opinions are wronger than mine.
Yeah, but then you have to share your opinions with me every week. And I
Yeah,
know
and
that
that's the
kills you
fun
a
part
little
because
bit
then you
inside.
say something dumb and then I yell at you for
I
it and then we
never
have
say
some
anything
fun.
dumb. I never say
Oh,
anything dumb.
please. People in the comments, let them know. We are at episode 150 and we are about to just do we've done a lot of history. We've done a lot of US men's national team stuff, but we haven't really done an MLS season update yet. We're about a quarter of the way through. So why not send it? We've got a list here of some just regular stats here, top player for each team, most impressive, least impressive, and a general feel that if the team is over or underachieving. Um, Plus one little question that Connor is going to ask me. I'm going to answer completely correctly, and we're going to move on. But before we do any of that, first off, before we go anywhere further, make sure you guys are subscribed to this. Make sure you guys are sharing this with your friends. You're following us on social media. Go out there right now, search the Designated Player Podcast on whatever social media account you have, and go follow us because we make some really good content, and people should listen to us. Now that we got that out of the way, scarf of the week. I think we're both rocking the same one
No, no,
for
no,
the
no, no,
same
no.
team. The same team.
You don't know what my scarf is.
I know what your scarf is, but go
No, you
ahead.
don't know what my scarf is.
Is it the inaugural 2017 season of FC Cincinnati? Oh,
No.
you did a switcheroo right at the end
No.
there.
All it says is
Wow.
FC Cincinnati. That's it. That's all it says.
Oh, what's the other side say? Oh, look at that. It
Nothing.
says
Don't worry
inaugural
about it.
season. It's like I can't read it. Because I didn't want to have you copy me, I switched it up. But I also rocked out the FC Cincinnati with Z's. And
Because
of
they're
course,
cool.
everybody's favorite racing wiener dogs.
Yeah, and you were gonna take out the other scarf when you have one with racing wiener dogs on it.
I love the scarf more than I love a lot of things in life. I will tell you that.
I can imagine.
All right. Connor, you had this idea to do this episode, which means you are in charge.
Okay,
Take it away.
great. Well, in the past, we typically go randomizer on teams and order. This time we will not be doing that. We will just be
We just had to pause it there so Connor could reevaluate his decision. But go
no,
again,
no,
Connor.
no.
Try again.
There's no we. You paused it because you thought I was actually serious about not randomizing. Of course, we randomized it, but we will start in the East, and the first randomized team that we will be discussing.
You're not even going to give me a chance to guess like I give you
Oh,
every
okay, okay,
week. Are
okay.
you
Yeah, you're right.
kidding?
You're right. You're
You're
right.
never running
Listen,
another episode
I'm
again.
not
You
used to
are
hosting.
done.
I'm used to just guessing. All right, go ahead. Give me a guess.
Are you going to give me any information?
No, not after that. I'll give you some on the next couple.
You said Eastern Conference,
Yeah,
so
that's all you get.
I think we'll start
I'll
off
tell you.
with.
Actually, I'll give you one hint. I'll give you one hint. Legends never die.
Oh no, are we starting with New York City?
No. Any other
Now you
guesses?
tell me.
Oh, I didn't know. I would give you another guess. We are
I don't want
talking
another guess.
about the New England Revolution.
Okay, fair.
So, New England is currently sitting at 5 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. Second place in the Eastern Conference. Can you believe that? In my opinion, their top player, as it, as it has been for a few seasons now, Carl's Heel. Do you have anybody different?
I tried to pick ones that are like a little bit less obvious for some of them because I
Yeah.
had a feeling you'd go with them. So I went with Petrovic in goal. I think he's been very, very solid and is one of the reasons that they are where they are.
Can't say I disagree with that one, considering they've only conceded 6 this season. How about most impressive player for you?
I have a split here. I'm hoping you have the other one. This may be a little bit of MLS fantasy bias because he just absolutely brought me to the moon this week. But Dylan Barrero has been very, very good for me. I think we expected a lot out of him in the first season he was here, and he kind of had that period where he needed to adjust. But since then, he's come back and been very, very strong for New England.
That's disappointing because now we're going to definitely leave off somebody who deserves to also be mentioned in this spot. But my choice for most impressive, Bobby Wood.
What?
Yeah, Bobby Wood has 2 goals and 2 assists this season in less minutes played than Dylan Barrero. He has been, when he got signed at the start of the season, I remember both of us talking about this. This is another Josie signing. Like, he's going to come in, experience. He's not going to play much. He's not going to do really anything for them. We were like, why is Bruce bringing him in? Like, he never really hit the ground running at all at RSL. And he's been so good for them. He's their joint leading scorer. He's got the most goals and assists on the entire team. He's been playing way better than we expected him to play. I think he's absolutely been one of their most impressive players this season.
You know what? That's a great defense. I'll give that to you. We'll go honorable mention for Noel Buck. I know that's who you were referring to. The 18-year-old has 1 goal and 1 yellow card in about 500 minutes. Definitely stepping into his own, one to watch for the future, and has done well. So,
yeah, 18 years old, playing nearly 500 minutes already for the second place team in the East. I'd say that's pretty impressive. But guess who's not been impressive? For me, and this is probably a bit harsh considering it's a second place team. All right, you're going to probably be stretching on figuring out who's been least impressive. But I have gone with Giacomo Vrioni, just considering the fact that I thought he was the guy they brought in to be the Buxa replacement. Has just not really hit the ground running. Can't really seem to get into a starting role. I mean, he's being beat out by Bobby Wood right now. He's got 1 goal so far in 172 minutes and only 1 start at the moment. So it's been a slow transition for him into MLS, but I just feel like at least my expectations for him were a bit higher.
I mean, let's be real. How are we going to expect anybody to break through Bruce Arena's team over Bobby Wood? That'd be like asking somebody to break in over Josie Altidore in Bruce Arena's team, or Mike McGee out of retirement in Bruce Arena's team. I also had Giacomo Vrioni there for the same reason we talked a lot about in the beginning of the year, him being one to watch, a guy that we thought we were going to break out. And through 6-7 games this year, he has just been nah. Has a goal in just under 200 minutes, which is nice to see. But I think for what they paid for him, I think it's something you want to keep their eye on.
Yep. Glad we're on the same page. Now, in regard to overachieving, underachieving, for me, I think New England has been just right. I think this team looks pretty good on paper. I think even if they can get Giacomo Vrioni to start kind of hitting his stride, I mean, this team looks great. I think they've been good at the back line. Dave Romney's been a fantastic addition. They look great in the midfield. Obviously, they still have their superstar on Carlos Heel. And they still have Gustavo Bo, too. Don't forget about Gustavo Bo. I think this team is absolutely going to be contending at the top of the East this year. I don't know if they have what it takes to top the East, but I think they're just right with how they're achieving so far.
I look at the way that we predicted them to be at the beginning of the year. They're overachieving for what we thought they would be, right? I think if you saw them, if the foot comes off the gas, I don't think anybody's like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. How did that happen? I don't think it's a shock to anybody. So, I have them at overachieving.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I think looking back at it, maybe I'd say slightly overachieving, but I still think this team is probably good enough to make the playoffs. All right. So my question for you Can the attackers continue this level of production for the entire season? Attackers including Barrero, Bobby Wood, if you want to throw Giacomo Vrioni in there, just anybody in the attack, really.
They're sitting 12 goals in 7 games. That's almost 2 a game. I think it's a little high. Overall, sure, but I think you're going to have your dips and your valleys. But overall, I think that they can keep, Carlos Hill fully fit, Gustavo Bo having rotational minutes with Bobby Wood. If, at that, I think what's he got? He's at 415 through 5 appearances so far, 4 times 90 or 5 times 90, 450. So he's had 40 minutes of bench time. So he's played full 90 most of them. But the fact that you'll have somebody to give him relief when he needs it is important. I think Dylan Barrera is still on pace to break out this year. And then, of course, you've got Vrioni to come back. So it wouldn't shock me if they did.
Yeah, I think they honestly, they have a lot of attacking power here. I mean, Barrera, like if Wood keeps up production and is a effective guy, even if he ends up getting moved to the bench for Bo and Barrero, I still think if he continues the production, that's great to have off the bench. And then obviously we've seen what Gustavo Bo can bring to the table. And if they can get Vrioni hitting, then it makes them even more dangerous in the attack. And I mean, who else would you want behind them pulling the strings than the guy that's one of the best playmakers in the entire league? So I think this attack is legit for this season. I'll be honest. I think it's legit.
I agree.
Cool. Next up, my hint to you, I'll make it a pretty obvious one. Statement.
Did you say statement?
Statement.
What?
Should I specify statements?
Oh, is it my team?
It is. It's the New York Red Bulls.
Gotcha. See, I'm thinking statement win, statement like performance.
Listen, I'm not going to just hand you the guess. You got to figure it out. Use that noggin of yours. Red Bull is currently sitting at 1 win, 4 draws, and 2 losses this season. 11th place in the East. Top player for me has been Cáceres. I'm going to go Cáceres here. I was looking at his numbers. One of the actually really cool parts of FBref, the FBref site, is they do, if you've played 450 or more minutes, they will do a comparison with a lot of the stats compared to players in a similar position. Cáceres had really good numbers percentile wise, pretty much across the board. I mean, it looked like from what I was seeing there that he has been playing well. I mean, he's been one of their better players for the last couple seasons. But yeah, I mean, obviously Red Bull hasn't been at their peak this season, so I think Cáceres is always going to be a safe play in that regard for top player.
Mine was John Tolkien. I think he's still filling into those roles that they're expecting him to play. That being said, he leads the team in assists right now. He is consistently involved on both sides of the ball. And he's got that little like F you, I'm better than you attitude that you need to have at that age. So I don't expect him to be around much longer. I do enjoy the Cáceres shout. I did try and, again, switch it up a little bit because I had a feeling that one was coming. Big fan of Cáceres, you know that. Yeah, like I said, there's not a lot to pick from a team that doesn't score very often. So,
are my picks that predictable?
Kinda.
All right, so then who did I pick for most impressive?
Andres Reyes.
I hate you. I really hate you. Yes, I picked Andres Reyes. I think he and Nealis have formed a pretty decent partnership in the back line. I think that I had concerns for him over his like disciplinary record and how he loves to rack up yellow cards and red cards, but I think him and Nealis have formed a pretty solid partnership back there. And I would say the defense has definitely not been the problem area for Red Bull. It's definitely been more so on the attacking side of things. So I think he's been a pleasant surprise for Red Bull this year.
Yep, he's also mine. I mean, he we sold Aaron Long with the expectation that he steps in and is just lights out, and he has absolutely lived up to the task. Unfortunately, we're not doing it on the other end. So, why don't we just move on to your least impressive pick, which is Luquinhas?
Do you have my sheet in front of you? Do you want to just do the whole episode for me? You could
Yeah, I
just
mean,
say
listen,
all my answers.
Luquinhas, your massive, multi-million-dollar designated player attacking mid signing, supposed to be pulling the strings for your multi-million-dollar designated player strikers who are not getting time anyway, and will not be getting time for the next, hopefully, foreseeable future. Yeah, he ghosts, right? He will come in and be fantastic for 60 minutes and then disappear for 360. It's just not good enough. So, um, he's been extremely disappointing. There are lots of people writing into the Seeing Red podcast, one of my favorite Red Bull podcasts. Shout out Mark and Joe, um, who are saying that it's time for him to go, right? And his numbers don't back up the price tag, and I wouldn't doubt if he's on his way out, hopefully for something like substantial, but he could leave on a free and nobody would bat their eyes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you've got 5 goals this year. You're gonna have to point the finger at your big time attackers. You know, Dante's just got here, hasn't really gotten his shot in terms of a starting opportunity, but Luquinhas was here. He played almost 2,000 minutes last season. This was his, he had the off season. You'd expect him to. This is the point where he starts to kind of pick things up and show some promise, but he's got 1 goal to show for so far in 6 games. It's considering the team's got 5 goals. It's got to be better from your big name attacker.
Yeah, it's disappointing, right? You're obviously going to tell me that they're underachieving, so we could probably just skip right past that because everybody thought they'd be at least in a playoff picture right now, pushing for competition in the at least top half of this conference, and they have been nothing short of disappointing. And they will continue to be that way, considering that the main impact that made our decision what it was the fact that their designated player striker scored 10 goals in 20 games in Belgium and had a lot of really dynamic movement. And now he's gone for my guess, if I had to guess, he is gone until at least All-Star break. At least. If they do this correctly, and I'm not going to dive into this, this is a whole nother conversation, but if they do it correctly, it should be at least until the All-Star break. That dude shouldn't see the field for another 3 months. At the very least. Anyways, moving on. You're going to ask me a question like, oh, I don't know. Are they actually a playoff team? Something along those lines?
I guess kind of similar. My question was, is this a slump or are you actually bad?
There you go. Yeah, about that.
Close enough.
So here's the thing, and I really, really, and you know how much I love to do it. I really don't want to go on to a Red Bull tangent today because we have a lot to cover. But here's the deal. We have gone through, since Jesse Marsh, we've gone through 4 head coaches, multiple designated player signings, multiple youth system signings, and multiple intra-league moves. At some point, you have to look at not the players in the system, but the people putting the system in place. Red Bull football will never be successful long term. It's ugly. It's nasty. You will never. There's no system that happens in this team. Like you don't get into the attacking phase of the game. You're like, okay, they're going to try this movement, have this guy check in, keep the ball. It is kick, run, dump, hope you win the second ball. They're bringing in players like Luquinhas, like Dante Van Zier, like Elias Manuel, Lewis Morgan, players that don't succeed well when they don't have the ball. Luquinhas needs to be on the ball to be successful. If you have him running around 6 miles a game without the ball versus 2 miles with the ball, you won't be successful. You will see him be poor. And I think that's the issue, is that we aren't recognizing that the system of play for the players that we have is starting to hurt them more than help. Because teams are starting to figure it out. We're not winning that first ball, or we're not getting the second ball, and then it's over because we're not strong enough to finish the ball. It's disappointing. It's ugly. I think it's a slump because it always is in this sense where we turn it around right towards, you know, August, right before playoffs. We'll get on a run and we'll figure it out and we'll look kind of decent just to sneak into the playoffs. Um, but I don't think we actually suck. I think we've got a lot of good players here that just need to figure it
All right. Let's leave it there on that. Next up, we have got, what's a good hint for this one? I'll say rock and roll.
Nashville.
Very good. Nashville is currently sitting at 3 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses, putting them in 5th place in the Eastern Conference. For me, gonna probably go with a bit of a surprising one here on top player. I'm gonna go Walker Zimmerman. Considering the team has conceded 2 goals the entire year, I think he deserves the top shout here, even though Hani is obviously a very good second choice. I'll call it 1A, 1B. But I'll go Walker Zimmerman considering I figure you have Hani.
I did have Hani, but I would remove that if we were going to focus on that side and go maybe somebody like, I don't know, Joe Willis or Shaq Moore, right? Joe Willis in the goal, of course, being the GOAT, and then Shaq Moore not only helping out on the defensive end, but with 2 assists on the front end as well. But yeah, Hani, I like Hani. Hani is my pick, but those are the other 2 I would consider if I was looking at the defensive end of the ball. 1 goal, 3 assists, and just over 500 minutes played. I mean, the dude steps on the field after a couple months of injury, and he's just electric.
Speaking of electric,
Nice.
who to you has been the most surprisingly electric player this season, aka the most impressive?
So going away from that, Jacob Schaffelberg has been fantastic. And we talked so bad about this move. Oh, Gary Smith is laughing at us. I know he listens to our podcast. So Gary, we're sorry. You are just you are doing something magical. So here's the deal, right? Jacob Schaffelberg in Toronto as a left back, awful. Right? When we didn't like him, he was bad as a left back. You put him in the attack with somebody who can feed him properly, and he turns into a good player. It's magic. So big fan of his rise to where he is at now. Hope he continues it.
Yeah. Would you kill me if I said Alex Muyl?
As most impressive?
No, least impressive.
No, because I had him for half a minute until I realized the reason he's least impressive is because Gary Smith has ruined his career.
I was kidding anyway. I also just
I know, so
completely
was I.
forgot to give my most impressive. But yes, I am on board the Jacob Schaffelberg most impressive train. So my least impressive player for Nashville here, considering they only have 6 goals this season, I'm gonna go CJ Sapong here. Might be a bit harsh, but considering he has played almost 300 minutes and has 0 goals, 0 assists, I know that I'm not gonna fully, put a lot of blame on him as the number 9 problem with Nashville, but he was their guy. What was it, 2 seasons ago, where he put in a really good season for them?
Yeah, like 18 goals or something like that.
Yeah, he had a strong season, good number of goals and good number of assists as well, but seems to kind of have cooled off a bit here in this season. And a strong number 9 would do wonders for this team, honestly.
Yep, that's mine too. So
Cool.
yeah, everything you just said you hit. So I won't try and.
All right, so I didn't really do it the same way that you did in terms of looking at predictions. So I don't remember where I predicted Nashville finishing, but I will say I think this team is slightly underachieving at the moment, because I think if they can figure it out in the attack, then this team is a legit contender in the East for top of the East, because I think them conceding 2 goals is not a fluke. This team genuinely has that defensive ability, but them only scoring 6 goals so far is definitely underwhelming, and I think is something that they can improve upon, especially if Hani can start getting it going in terms of scoring goals like he did last year. So I think they can do a little bit better than what they're doing at the moment.
I've got them at neither over or under. I think they're right about where they need to be. I didn't put them in that top level because of that lack of striker ability we've been talking about. But I did have them as a legit playoff team because they don't give up goals very easily. You know, they're very well versed in what they have to do, and you know, I think that middle of the playoffs in the East is right about where they belong. So I'm happy with it.
Cool. My question for you: if they get a legit number 9, are they in contention with LAFC, FCC, and Seattle for Supporter Shield?
No, they're more than one away. I mean, you've got now Seattle's riding high on the Jordan Morris Leo Chu combo. Um, St. Louis. Did you put St. Louis in there?
No.
Oh, thank goodness. I just saw them next to each other on my list. That's why I'm like, wait a second. LAFC, of course, is up there. Did you say Austin?
I said FCC.
FCC. Okay. FCC's got a group. LAFC's got a group. And again, it focuses more on one player, right? But they already have that one player. They need at least 2 more, I think, to complement him. I think they're more than just one player away.
Okay. All right, so let's go on to the next team then. Your hint? Former Dumpster Fire FC.
FCC.
Of course, FCC. Currently top of the East. Would you believe it? At 5-2-0, have yet to lose. Top player for me, honestly, I couldn't pick between the two. I've got either Yerson Mosquera or Matt Miazga this season. I don't think that they are the most talented player on the team. I want to just make that clear. But I think one of those two or both of them have been the best player for them so far this season. I think surprisingly, they've been incredibly good defensively. Only 4 goals conceded so far this season.
So mine is Mosquera. I went and went off that same thing, right? This team is winning games at a pace that, or not at a pace, with a style that is really, really scary, right? You have LAFC who's beating the snot out of everybody, and that's one thing. But to me, as a player, the scariest teams were the ones that could grind out results against top teams, whether they were on it or not on the day. Like if you had a team that was playing poorly, but also had the work rate to say, I'm still not letting you score, and I'm going to go at least find one to tuck it away, or I'm going to get a draw, or I'm going to do, the little things to get that result. That's a scary team. And that is why I think this FCC team is legit. They find ways to win games in ways that other teams just can't.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention, we know what their attacking trio is capable of. We saw it last season. All they have to do is just find their form again and then continue, even to like a relative amount, this defensive performance that they've been putting in. And I mean, I think they're easily the favorites for the Eastern Conference with how poor Philly's been this season. Like I
Man,
don't see anybody
imagine not
competing.
picking. Sorry, imagine not picking Philly as being, not top of the East.
Who did you pick again?
Top of the East, Orlando.
Yeah, how's that one working out for you? Just as bad as my Philly pick. All right, let's stay on track. Most impressive player, who have you got?
Junior Moreno, the center mid, who I mentioned when my buddy went and watched FCC, and he's a Venezuelan. Junior Moreno's Venezuelan. He was like, "Oh, I think he's the best of the best." But here's the deal, right? Junior Moreno might be one of the most underrated center mids in the league this year. 2 goals, 1 assist for this team in 500 minutes as more of a defensive player. Nwodu and him play kind of side to side. They complement each other so well. And I think it's really important that that's noted because that allows him to go up and link the play, that allows him to go be a part of the attack next to Lucci and combine with them and get the second balls. I think he is in a really good spot right now. If there was a most improved player for the league, like in NBA or whatever, I think Junior Moreno is it. Really, really like the way he plays, and I'm very, very impressed with how he's come on. Again, you mentioned it, right? This team wins games in ways that others can't. And he does it on both sides of the ball. He's tucking goals away, which is something he never used to do, to my knowledge. But he's also doing the work on the defensive end. I mean, you look at some of his defensive stats, 1.3 tackles a game, 1.2 interceptions, only 0.7 fouls, 1 clearance a game. So he's in and about it all the time. That is something that is a really big attribute to teams who are looking for it.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I'm stoked about mine. I've gone with Alvaro Barreal for most impressive player.
Okay.
This is a man that was in the attack and has been made into a makeshift fullback, and he's been phenomenal this year. We talked a little bit before about FCC's defensive ability this year. He's part of this team that's conceded 4 goals all year. And being an attacking player, we know what he's going to bring to the table in the attack. I'm looking at the percentiles here. He's been phenomenal in the attack for them. I mean, he provides so much good width on the outside for in the attack for FCC. I mean, I think him going into a new position and succeeding this well has been highly impressive. I feel like this could have absolutely blown up in their face, and he just wouldn't be able to hack it in the defensive ability, and then potentially that could just unravel their entire defense. But he's been hanging with the rest of the team, been making FCC look like a great defensive team, and he's been contributing great in the attack as well. He's got 2 assists so far this season. I think they found a gem moving him to one of the outside back positions.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that system was lacking a true attacking fullback for a long time. And kind of taking a page out of Montreal's book with Lassi Lapalainen, right? It's difficult to do, but if you have the right person to do it, you can take an attacking player and turn it into an attacking wingback. And that's what they've done, and he's done a really good job. Again, assisting a team on both sides of the ball to be a team that will win games ugly, and that's what you need sometimes.
Yep. I'm going to have a tough one for you here. Top of the Eastern Conference. How do you pick a least impressive player? But I'm going to ask you anyway.
That's easy. Marco Angulo. The big U22 initiative signing, expected to come in. And again, it's less least impressive and more he hasn't gotten his chance yet because Moreno's been so good. But you expected him to come in and at least get good rotational minutes in there. And I think he's sitting on, 200 with 3 starts. And he just hasn't made it the impact that people thought he would make. He's been just meh. So no real contributions to note. It will be interesting to see how he fits in. Again, he's 20. There is years and years and years of time for this guy. But not the impact I thought he would have made based off of how hyped the signing was, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I hyped it up as a tough choice, but I had the exact same thing. Yeah, Marco Angulo. We talked about it at the start of the year. I think both of us had him sliding right into the starting lineup easily, partnering with Nwobodo in the midfield, but hasn't had that opportunity yet. But like you said, super young, so new to the league. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise because now he has time to transition in without the pressure of having to start week in, week out. But so far, obviously, only 200 minutes for someone that we saw as like a big time sliding right in the starting lineup. So least impressive is a bit of a harsh. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that's a really nice point that you made there with this blessing in disguise thing, right? Like a lot of U22s will come in and flop because they're expected to perform right away. Now you've got this guy who doesn't need to be the star, can learn the game, learn the league, and become better. I like that.
Cool. Question. Sorry. Overachieving, underachieving. For me,
Overachieving. Sorry.
okay. No,
Easy.
go right ahead. I guess
Overachieving.
I guess you're in charge, huh?
I always
You want
am.
to lead this?
I always am. Um, they're overachieving, right? I think we thought they'd be good. I didn't think we'd think they were top of the East good. So it's not a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, if you go off predictions, I think overachieving as well. But from what I've seen from them so far, I feel like just right. I mean, I feel like this team is good enough from what we've seen from all the teams in the Eastern Conference to be right there at the top of the East. I could very likely see this team winning the Eastern Conference this season.
How are we making over or underachieving predictions based off of what you're watching? If you watch the game and you see them play, then they're always going to be just where they're supposed to be because that's how they're playing. Over or underachieving means what did you think they'd be versus what they are now?
Well, I'm just thinking about like a St. Louis. I mean, I think
That's
you
your
and I
issue.
can both agree that um, what we've seen on the field is like, and where they are in the standings is they're overachieving where they should probably realistically be.
You're really going to do that without giving a spoiler alert? That's wild.
Well, it's next episode, so they'll forget by the time they hear it.
All right,
All right,
go ahead. Give me a question.
we kind of already somewhat covered this question. My question for you is: are they favorites for the East?
Yes, 100%. Phillies dropped too far, and again, it's early in the year, but Phillies dropped too far down to still be in that conversation. You've got New England, who I think are going to fall off personally. Ooh, excuse me. So those are your two competitors there. Then you got Atlanta, who's playing because Thiago Almada. Columbus might be a shout, and then Nashville's 2 games behind them. I'd put FCC in the top of the top.
I agree. Yeah, I think to be honest, I feel like they're the out and out favorite.
Yep.
Cool. On to the next one. This team may or may not have gone to Rome.
Oh man, DC United. Did they see the Pope?
No, he was out of town actually.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. You know what else is unfortunate? DC United's season so far. 1 win, 2 draws,
One way to
and
say it.
4 loss. Huh?
I said it's one way to say it.
Yeah. 1 win, 2 draws, and 4 losses so far, putting them in 13th place in the Eastern Conference. Top player for me, I've gone with Click. I know I definitely gave him, I think I gave the transfer like a pretty bad rating, something like a C minus maybe, but he has definitely overplayed that so far. I think he's been a fantastic player for them this season. You know, as fantastic as you can be on a 13th place team, but it's a team game. Obviously, he needs the guys around him to help step up as well. But I think he's been phenomenal for them so far.
Yeah. I went ahead and grabbed our friend Christian Benteke. I was not a fan of the signing at all. When they brought him in at the end of last season. That being said, 3 goals on a team that's got 7 of them so far. I think that kind of speaks for itself. He's doing a lot of the work up top. And they're not bad goals either. When DC play, they can play. So it's nice to see that. They just need to get more consistent. And I'm looking here. You've got Donovan Pines with only 2 games, Andy Nahar with only 2 games. Lewis O'Brien, their new signing, just made their first appearance. Taxi's only got 3 games. You know, a lot of people with only 1 or 2 starts and a couple of sub appearances. Yeah, just lots of work to be done in terms of consistency at that team.
Nice. What are you thinking about most impressive player?
My boy TKD, baby. Ted Kudipietro.
Couldn't have seen that one
Highlighted
coming.
him highlighted him as one to watch when we did our team preview. Basically what I'm trying to say is I know ball because this guy came in at a 21-year-old midfielder, 300 minutes, a goal and an assist already, including a game winner or a game tying and a game winning assist in the same game. Excited to see his growth over the next couple of months, but yeah, think he's been very, very impressive this year.
Yeah, so I absolutely could not pick TKD because I can't let your ego grow any farther than it has, or else it might genuinely explode. So I have gone with Chris Durkin for this one. Him coming back to MLS after what I will say is not a great spell in Europe, considering he's back here now at 23. Got to consider that probably means it didn't go very well. But he's stepped right back into this DC team, and he's been looks like he's been playing pretty well. I mean, he's one of their top rated players across a few different sites that I've been looking at, and he's and that's definitely a bit more impressive when you take into account the fact that he is playing as a defensive mid, and I think that they kind of slate the defensive mids a little worse in the ratings because they're not scoring the goals. But I think he's been having a strong year. Coming back off of, I guess, might be a harsh term. I don't know his time in Europe very well, but I'll call it downtime in Europe.
What about least impressive then?
Oh boy, did I definitely not forget to update this one. Why don't you give us your least impressive first?
You're so good at hosting
I
things.
it says Brant Bronico right now. That's clearly not right.
What? Never again. I'm always in charge after this. Um, Taxi Fontas. We came in and thought he and Benteke were gonna combine and be this killer combo, and he's got he just came back from his, I guess, injury or suspend. Oh, it might have been a suspension, wasn't it? Yeah, for little Dante Van Zier-esque action, if I remember correctly. Um, so he just came back from a suspension and has been mid. So hopefully he turns things around. But yeah, he's been definitely underwhelming in these first few games that he's played.
I'll go with Pedro Santos. I'm not sure. Honestly, let me double check where they're playing him. But obviously, we know Pedro Santos was a great playmaker on Columbus. And from what it looks like, at least according to who scored, they're not playing him as a left back. So he's a bit more up the field. I would anticipate that he would do a bit more in terms of creation and playmaking ability. But, across multiple sites, it looks like he's got a pretty low rating. He's only got one assist so far this year. And he's got minutes too. It's not like he's just coming in off the bench. I mean, he's got 330 minutes so far and 4 starts, I believe. So he's getting game time. It doesn't seem like he's bringing enough to the field.
Good one too.
Cool. I think this one's going to be pretty obvious for you, considering I remember your predictions for this one. But overachieving or underachieving?
Neither.
Neither. You didn't put
They're
them in
mid.
13th.
They're mid.
You had them way higher than that.
I don't know what you're talking about. They're mid.
I'll pull the clip. You're the editor. But pull the clip anyway.
Oh man, it's so good being the video editor on this channel. Yeah, I mean, listen, are they underachieving based off of my prediction? Probably, but let's be realistic. They're right where they belong.
So now we're gonna be realistic. But when I said that about FCC, you had a whole kerfuffle about it.
What what part of I'm in charge don't you get?
I hate you. You're not in charge this episode. I'm in charge.
You're never in charge. I
This
just
is
tell
my
you that so you can
episode.
feel good.
I don't remember where I had them predicted, but I have them underachieving because I feel like anybody that's in 13th place that is not named Montreal,
Or FCC.
no, FCC maybe 2 years ago, but I mean, they brought in tons of new players. They backed their manager, and they haven't got the results. It's early. They still have time to turn things around. Obviously, one one win could potentially bump them all the way up to like 8th. So I mean, it's tight, obviously, but yeah, I mean, so far they've been underachieving.
I agree.
Cool. Question for you. If you could pick one player from within MLS to fix the situation in DC, who would you pick? To fix it to the best of their abilities. Who's the one? If you could pick one player from another team, put him in this DC team, who would you do? Who would you pick?
Wow. Toss me on the spot.
Listen, you put me in charge. That's what you get.
Oh man.
I will. How about I will
You
talk
go
them down.
first.
Okay. I think that they need a playmaker. Someone who plays similar to like a Kev De Bruyne, David Silva type play style.
Yeah, go get Kevin De Bruyne. That'd be a good idea.
I didn't say Kevin De Bruyne. I just said the play style. Let's relax. Um, Obviously it's highly unrealistic, but I think having a playmaker like Carlos Heel in this team to just set up Benteke, I think Benteke would genuinely become one of the better or best strikers in the league. I think what he's done so far with the little, I feel like little chances that the team has provided for him has been a great sample size. And I think if you got him a legitimate playmaker behind him, I think he'd be banging in goals and DC would look a lot better than they have been.
I don't think anybody's got a number 10 that they're just going to part ways with at that level, though. That's the issue.
Yeah, obviously, you'd have to bring in someone at that level from outside of the league. You're not gonna find it within the league. I don't know, man. I mean,
The
maybe you could take a shot at like Pazuello. Where is he now? Is he out in like Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, he left. He left the league.
Bring him back. Giovinco was crying to come back at some point.
Giovinco was crying because he didn't get enough money. Yeah, I don't know who I'd bring in. I think the playmaker is not a bad shout. I think really, I think the back line is still garbage comparative to what we thought it would be. Um, doesn't shock me, by the way, when you take an attacking focused coach and try and put him into a team, you're going to miss out on that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Tyler Miller has not been it, by the way. There's just so much that they can do. And you know what? Here, let me go back on that. Realistically, it's less about what player and how much time they still need to gel. I mean, you look at this team and look how many players they brought in this offseason. It had to be, double digits worth of new starting players. They're still trying to figure out themselves and figure out who works well where. And so I'd say give them let's reevaluate halfway through the year before we start just saying, oh, blow it up.
Okay. All right. So then let's move on to the next team. My hint for you is pizza pasta. That's such a terrible hint.
That's so bad. Pizza pasta. Then New York City?
No. Any more guesses? All right. Is that
No,
when
I'm
I
not.
tell you?
You get one.
It's Toronto FC.
What?
It's
Is that a
it's
play
a,
on the two
yeah, it's a
Italians
play
that we
on
have in their
Italy.
team? Oh my God! Never again. You're done. I'm never doing this again.
Listen, this is what you get for putting me in
We're
charge.
we're an hour in. We've gone through five teams.
All right, we'll go faster. Toronto are 1-5-1, ninth place in the East. Top player for me has been Federico Bernardeschi. What about you?
Likewise, I mean, I don't think with Insigne gone, there's not much of an argument to be made. Yeah, he's the only one putting in any sort of attacking shift for them. 8 goals, he's got 3 of them, and an assist. So
Cool, go team. Most impressive player for me, I'm gonna go with Mark Anthony K. Obviously, I think he was a good player to begin with, but from what I've seen on the season, he has been really good on all sides of the ball. Looks like he's been good going forward, good in defense, been a all-around great player for them in the midfield.
yep, same here. Again, a guy who we were waiting to break out in this system for a little bit. My only issue, as we mentioned, they're rotating through 4 center mids. He's coming off an AC. I think he did his ACL at some point. I think they need more help, but we won't go into it. But yeah, he's also my most impressive simply because he's one of the better attacking guys right now for them.
Cool, go team. Least impressive for me, I'm going with Adama Diamande. the door was wide open when they traded away their starting striker, and Adama went up to the door and said, "This is a chilly breeze. Let me close this door," and walked away. He's had
Nice.
2 starts so far this season, 0 goals, 0 assists. From what I could tell from the rating, and I think I remember seeing this, he has, I think, 0 shots in those 2 games, and I believe had maybe combined 30 touches in those 2 games. So, and considering the fact that he is now beat out by a 20-year-old on the team, I would say Diamande's shot at the starter spot is not looking so great. When I
So
thought he would be the guy after Jimenez was traded.
so important to note, he has been hurt. He got hurt after that second game in training, I think. That being said, it's still been disappointing. Just the injury alone has been disappointing. This is, like you mentioned, it was his chance to come in and be a starter, and he, the injury is upsetting, sure, but yeah, expected a little bit more out of him. So hopefully he gets back and can prove us right. So
Okay. So transfer market didn't have it listed as an injury. That's why it just says not in the squad. So
it's just something I heard. I don't know if he's actually hurt or not. It's just the rumor that I heard.
okay. Fair enough. I mean, still, even in those 2 games, though, he was poor.
Yep.
But go team anyway. Overachieving, underachieving. Considering where I had them at the start of the season and where I still see this team going, underachieving for me. I expected more from them. I still think that they can pull this out. I mean, they've only lost 1 game so far this season. They're tying a lot. They're missing their star player. As an Atlanta fan, I know how much that can change the team. If Insigne comes in and is doing Thiago Almada things, absolutely will change the way that Toronto looks in the standings. So underachieving for me.
It's a big if.
Is it?
Yeah. I feel like he's gonna come back and not care at all, personally. But that's just me.
You're a hater.
Man, I had these guys 6th. Wow, how did I let you talk me into that?
This is a good team on paper.
That's criminal.
Oh,
I think
relax.
originally I had them low originally. You talked me out.
They're 1 point off of 6th place.
Are they really?
Yeah. They have 8 points. 6th place is Chicago with 9.
For some reason, I thought they were like dead last.
No,
No,
they're mid-table.
this makes sense. I've got them neither. I've got them where they're supposed to be. Yes, they've only got 1 win, but they have 5 draws on top of it. They're another team that are trying to figure out their shape and how to balance their midfield, but they're doing that while picking up results. So I have them as neither.
Okay. Question for you. From what we've seen so far, will Insigne's return make this team one of the best in the East? I think we kind of covered this already.
Such a dumb question. No.
You're such a hater. You're such a
what
hater.
do you mean? Look
This
at
guy
this
was a
team.
star. This guy was playing in the Italian national team and he came over to MLS, and you think he's just gonna completely fall off the map? I mean, even his small sample size last year, he was fantastic.
No, I did not say that. You asked me if it's gonna take them from a bottom of the playoffs to the top team in the East with FCC because Insigne exists. No freaking way. They are running with 35-year-old Michael Bradley for 30,000 minutes this season. 3,000 is the plan to run Michael Bradley. No team with 35-year-old Michael Bradley is running with FCC this year. You're out of your mind. I've had this conversation with you before. I'm not doing it again.
They're fine in the midfield. They can play Bradley 3,000 minutes and they'll still finish towards the top. I disagree, but we've already discussed this, so let's move on. Your next hint is Gone Wild.
Oh, Columbus. That's a
Columbus.
good one.
Thanks. Columbus are 4-1-2 this season, putting them in 4th place in the East. And one of the driving factors behind that is top player Lucas Zelarayan. Can't imagine you have somebody different.
Did I change? Oh, I think I had Zela and I might have. No, I didn't. Zela's still my top guy.
Yeah, I figured. Go team. Most impressive. I know we talked about this one pre-show. I think both of us have a list. You want to read off your list of guys, and I'll check my list off as well. There's a number of players for most impressive for Columbus.
I am gonna. I think mine is going to start with Will Sands. The left back has done very, very well for Columbus. They traded away Pedro Santos to give him this shot, and he has taken it very, very well.
What are we trading off? Or
Yep.
are you just you're picking one?
No. Yeah, I picked one from my 5. You can pick one.
Okay. I will go Aiden Morris then. Aiden Morris has been balling out this season. Obviously, we knew he had potential. I didn't expect for his potential to blow up this fast, honestly. But yeah, he has been killing it in the midfield for Columbus this year.
I didn't pick him because he kind of came onto the scene last year, so I kind of expected it. But he's still been better than I could have ever expected, to be honest with you. He's done so very well. Um, Alexandre Matan has been fantastic this season. Definitely in my list there. Mo Farsi, the right mid / right back, has been very, very good. As has Philip Quinton in that center back.
Was that your whole list? Is that everybody?
Yep. Yeah, it's everybody.
Only person I will add on to that.
Add the goalkeeper. Do it.
Give me Christian Ramirez.
Oh,
3 goals and 3 starts so far this year for him. Definitely more than I was expecting from him. I thought he'd come in and kind of play almost a Josie like role for this team, but he's getting game time and he's scoring goals. He's looking like Minnesota Christian Ramirez again.
we need to throw Patrick Schulte in there.
Yeah, that's fine. At this point, we're just gonna name the whole team.
As Eloy Room being out, he's come in and done phenomenally. I mean, he's had his growing moments, but he's still been very good in the last couple of games. I mean, you can watch him play, and he's still not in super great command of his box, which would worry me as a goalkeeper coach. However, he's 22. That can be taught. So nice.
Cool. Now that we've named half their team, definitely going to make it a bit tougher to come up with a least impressive player. I have gone with Yayaboa. His time in MLS in general has just been disappointing. But he's sitting on about 260 minutes. He's got 1 goal so far, 0 assists. He's kind of become more just a rotational player. I know he's got 3 starts, but with how many guys are kind of, bursting onto the scene and making a name for themselves this season, I think Yaboa is just going to keep getting pushed further and further down the depth chart for Columbus.
Mine was Coach Hernandez. We brought this guy in thinking he was going to be, and I know I think he's injured.
Yeah, I think he's been hurt. That's why I didn't pick him.
And again, it might be harsh, but this was a lot of people's pick for Gold Boot. And the injury takes away from it. Even in those 3 games, he had 90 minutes and hadn't had a goal. So, just a bit disappointing. That's all. I wouldn't say he's been like super unimpressive, but I think based off of the expectation I had for him, he hasn't hit it.
Okay. I will let the comments speak for that one. For me, they have been just right. I think this is a good spot for them in the standings. I think they will probably finish somewhere around here towards the top of the East, but probably not top.
Based off of my prediction, which had them 12th out of 15, I have them a bit overachieving than they used to be.
Do you have my predictions up too?
I only have a picture of. Hold on, I can pull it up. Oh yeah, when it gets there, I'll let you know.
It gets where?
So it's a video, but it's from TikTok. So, I gotta wait for it to go all the way through, and then I'll hit pause. And I think I can pause it. Can I pause it? No, I can't even pause it. No.
Hold on, I will look it up on Twitter.
Wait, I could tell you. It's almost here. You had them in 9th.
Huh.
Oh, I did. Better. I can pause it. We're good. I'll pause it on the picture.
All right. I trust that you won't lie to me.
Yep, I got it. So you put Red Bull in first.
Yeah, that's odd. I must have been drunk that day. Question for you. Are people sleeping on Zelarayan in the MVP conversation? We hear about Thiago Almada, we hear about Buwanga, we hear about Jordan Morris. Are people sleeping on Zelarayan?
Probably. I wouldn't be. I mean, here's the thing. I think that he is in the conversation, but he's not leading the race. So yeah, I'm thinking if we were to stop it right now, quarter of the way through the season, and pick our top five to pick an MVP vote, he's in there, but he doesn't win.
Yeah, I'm gonna say people are not. It's going to be Zelarayan's probably gonna wrap up his MLS career and criminally not have an MVP to his name, even though he's been phenomenal in this league. But yeah, I mean, I don't think people have been sleeping on him. I think, just like you said, he's probably on the cusp of that top five MVP conversation. But I just think guys one, two, and three are just so far ahead of like 4, 5 in the MVP conversation that I just, even though he's technically in the conversation, I just don't think he has a shot at winning at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, he is having a great year, but other people are just better, and that's why he's not in.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Next team we've got, I'll call it the new age dumpster fire.
It's got to be Montreal, right?
It is Montreal. New age FCC. Montreal is currently sitting on 1 win, 0 draws, and 5 losses, putting them 15th in the Eastern Conference. It is honestly really tough to find a top player in this team, but I have gone with Romel Kyoto. To me, probably the only saving grace for this team.
That is who I have as well, because yes,
Yeah, I mean, who else are you going to pick? um, Honestly, I really couldn't even pick a most impressive player either. I went with Romel Kyoto, considering what he's been able to do with the team around him so far. Um, has been impressive to me.
yeah, and that's why he's also my most impressive.
This is sad. This is
Well,
this is sad.
all right, so tell me that your least impressive is Herrera because he's been so
it's
disappointing.
it's not Herrera. Is that who you went with?
That's who I went with. He's so disappointing.
I did not go with Herrera. I actually went with Kamal Miller.
Ooh,
We obviously you and I think both agree that Kamal Miller is a very good center back, one of the better ones in the league normally. But this team's conceded 16 goals this season, and when I look at the FBref percentiles in terms of defensive stats like tackles, interceptions, blocks, he is ranked awfully. His highest is he's the 37th percentile in blocks. He's he's in the 1 percentile for clearances, um, 8th percentile for aerials one. I mean, he's not looked good this season, and it is surprising. This is a good, experienced MLS center back who is a starter for the Canadian national team, and he has not been playing at that level this season.
which makes you wonder: was he only good because the other players around him made him look good? And by that I mean we were all so focused on Mihailovic and Kone and um,
Alistair Johnston.
yeah, um, that we just forgot about him.
All right, so for me, I was able to pull up my predictions. I have them on my end, so I know you can't just lie and make up my predictions, whatever you say it is. But I had Montreal in 14th, so this is just about right for them. I expected them to have a down year, considering they sold their entire team and didn't replace anybody and lost their coach. So just right for me.
I also had them as where'd it go? Just had it. I hate how I set this up. It's all confusing. Oh, did I already highlight it? Oh yeah, I already highlighted it. Yeah, I had them as exactly where they belong. They're super, super bad. And that's how we all predicted.
Yeah, as we should have. My question for you, what's the first step to fixing this problem? Just the first step, not all the answers. What's the first one?
Spend it. Go out and buy somebody. How much money do you just make off of these players that you're just like, Greek center defensive mid. Yes, sir. And that's it? Go get somebody.
Yeah, can't say I disagree with you on that one. All right, let's move on. Next up is I can't think of any. 2022's sleeper team of the year at the start of the season, according to one person.
Bruh, you are so out there.
What do you mean out there? I just handed it to you. What do you mean?
Sleeper team of the year.
Yeah, according to one host.
Dude, I have no idea.
Oh
Houston?
Chicago Fire.
That was last year.
That's why I said 2022. Do you listen?
You're so confusing.
You just don't listen. Anyway, the Chicago Fire are 2-3-1 this season, currently sitting in 6th place in the East. Top player for me, I've got Chris Mueller.
Me too.
Cool. Wow, we've had a lot of the same in a row.
It's because you love to copy me.
Most impressive player. We might have the same one on this as well.
I picked out Sequet.
Never mind, we don't have the same.
Yeah, I figured I tried to go different, but allegedly, because there's definitely no video evidence or post evidence that you slated this transfer like hard, and he is
Give him
not
like a
only
C. Let's not overplay this.
you have
Slated it
not
hard.
rated it all, and we talked about how that right back spot needed to get younger or rather older and more experienced, but not too old. Because Bornstein was too old, and who was the guy behind him?
Was it
I don't
Reynolds?
remember. Yeah, it might have been. Was too young and wasn't ready. So this was a really good experienced player with a lot of help, and he's been very, very good at getting service from that right hand side into one Kai Kamara for lots of finishes. So, yeah, absolutely love it.
All right. Well, you have you know what, actually I'm pulling up the transfer because you're saying a lot of slanderous things about what I said, and I want to make sure that they are or are not correct. Okay, I said a D. That is a bit slanderous, but
Yeah.
listen, we're 6 games into the season for Chicago. Let's see how it looks at the end of the season. I have gone for Kai Kamara as my most impressive player. This guy is 38 years old. He's played on like 10 different teams in this league, and every single time he plays, he scores goals. He has 3 goals for Chicago so far this year. I just you literally you cannot count on him to not score goals. I know that's kind of a weird way to put it, but it's just like if he's in your team, he's going to score goals. This guy is just he's legitimately one of the best strikers in MLS history.
I don't disagree, but I also kind of expected that out of him because he's the GOAT.
Yeah, but I mean, he's
So
38.
I'm by comparison, I'm less impressed with him than I am with Sequet. But I think who we can both equally say that we are least impressed by at the moment is Chris Brady.
I did not go with Chris Brady.
Well, then you don't know ball, my friend. Chris Brady is a young, promising goalkeeper in the Chicago Fire ranks. Emphasis on young. Some of the goals that he has conceded, while not necessarily leading to losses or loss of points, has really, really hurt the trust that the team has in him. the goal that he let up in Minnesota's loss last week, or the win over Minnesota, I should phrase that, was a 35-yard shot that went straight through his hands, and you saw every one of their defenders go, like, not again, here we go. You know, I get it. He's young, he's promising, and I think he's got a great future ahead of him. But right now, he's been very very not impressive.
You're focusing too much on two errors. He was 18 years old when he started the season, and he is played, I think, all but 1 week for them, and they're in 6th place in the standings. And that is just incredibly harsh. I don't know how high your expectations were for him, but they must have been like through the roof.
Gaga Slanina, that's the bar. You want to be a young goalkeeper, especially in Chicago, that's the bar. It's like any goalkeeper that comes into Red Bull. The bar is Luis Robles. You don't get to underachieve and be like, oh, it's okay. Like, nobody will ever be Luis. There is a bar, there's a standard. You need to hit that standard. And again, I'm not saying his career is over. I'm saying there's a lot of work for him to go before he's the guy.
My pick was your favorite player, Kasper Schmeichel.
Wow, you're just a hater.
Kasper has. I really do hate this because I remember listening to Julian and Fabian's podcast, and they talked about how like great of a person Kasper Schmeichel is. So this honestly makes me feel really conflicted about saying this, but he's got just about 330 minutes so far this season. He's got 1 goal, 1 assist, and according to Who Scored, he's been played at striker as opposed to last year where, like you said, he was played on the wing. But his time in Chicago has not led to many goals. He has 6 goals in all of his time in Chicago so far. I mean, he's supposed to be a striker. I know they played him a bit out of position, but he's supposed to be a striker and score goals for this team. And he did it in Philly. And since he's been in Chicago, it's been disappointing. And it's been below what I would expect for him.
Here's what I'll say is he's always played as a striker. The system that they play brings him out wide. If you watch Red Bull under Struber, Van Zier was doing that a lot in his early times, where you'd think he's a striker, a hold-up guy, let him get the ball or run him behind, but he drifts really far out wide and isn't in the box for a lot of the way that the game plays, which isn't great to personally if you have a striker like that. To me, I don't love it.
He should. I feel like he should still be able to find chances to score more than he has. But anyway, let's move on. Over or underachieving. I had Chicago finishing 15th, dead last in the East. So it's fair to say they are overachieving what I had expected for them.
I'm going to pretend we're in 2022 and say I've got it straight on because for whatever reason, my predictions take 2 years. My predictions have the Ben Bayer aging limit on it, where you can't be right or good in your first season. You have to wait a full year before you're good. No, they're overachieving on my pick too. So
good.
That's another one I let you talk me out of.
Good. I'm glad. My question for you, is Chicago a legit playoff team?
Don't do that to me. Chicago to
am I asking 2023 Andrew or 2022 Andrew?
Chicago to the Yoff. So here's the thing. I've got nothing against Chicago. I want Chicago to be good again because MLS is good when the original MLS teams are good. So I want Chicago to be good again. That being said, no. I think they're riding high. I think they are grinding out lucky results. They have blown like 3 2-goal leads in 7. Now, they didn't lose all of those games, but they did lose their lead in those games. That's not the make for a playoff team. So.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you.
Of course you are.
They're sitting in 6th right now, but they are only 3 points off of 12th. They can easily lose form and fall down the standings quickly. And I just don't see what they have on paper because I put them at 15th in my predictions. But yeah, I don't see a strong team on paper. And Chris Brady is not at Gaga Slinina level, as we previously discussed. But so I don't see Chicago being able to recreate the defensive abilities that they brought to the table last year. So I kind of see them dipping a bit lower than they did last year. So yeah, I will say also not a playoff team in my opinion. Let's move on though. And we're talking about Lions.
Orlando.
Orlando.
Wow, what a terrible.
I almost said, listen, it could have been a lot worse. All right. In my head, I was thinking, oh, are we on a safari? Because I see lions. You would have hated me for that one. Anyway, Orlando currently 2-2-2, sitting at 8th in the Eastern Conference. My top player for them, and I do want to reiterate, this is not, in my opinion, the best player, which is the player I think has been playing the best. I'm going to go with Martin Ojeda.
Okay. Why?
He has the most goal contributions.
Wow.
I think Facundo Torres is a better player, and I think Facundo will be the better player at the end of the season. But he has had a bit of a, I'll say, slower start, probably because of CCL stuff. But yeah,
My top player is the only reason they've been semi-relevant in the season so far, and his name is Pedro Gallese.
yeah, I can't knock that pick. It's a good pick. Pedro Gallese has been good. Most impressive player, Duncan McGuire. I can't imagine you have something different, but he has burst onto the scene and made a name for himself at the striker spot for Orlando. Maybe looking at a DK 2.0, not necessarily play style, but just breakthrough striker out of the Orlando system.
I had Ojeda in that spot just because if I didn't have Gallese as top player, Ojeda would have been there. But I felt like we needed to mention Ojeda, and I didn't know if you were going to, so that's why I put him in there.
Okay.
But all for the same reasons you did.
Would you have said Duncan McGuire if you didn't say
Yeah,
Ojeda?
yeah, absolutely. But I figured if I had Gallese, I thought you would have Gallese there. I figured you'd take McGuire there, so I was like, okay, we got to talk about Ojeda too.
Okay. Least impressive player. This one, for me, is the guy that is absolutely ruining my Golden Boot prediction right now. Erkin Kara has been replaced by Duncan McGuire. I know there's been rotation because of CCL, but he is had a very slow start to the regular season. He has only played twice, has 126 minutes, but has done nothing in those 126.
He's also mine. Same reason.
Yeah, not looking good for my Golden Boot. I shouldn't have let you talk me into the wild pick. I should have just gone
Listen,
with
you talked me out of like 7 correct predictions in my standings, so this is payback.
Perfect. Speaking of predictions and standings, I had Orlando finishing in second. So it is fair to say I have them underachieving. I think that they are better than they're playing in the standings. I think they will move up as soon as CCL is done, but at the moment they are underachieving.
I had them. Hold on. Whoa, I messed something up. There we go. Where we have posted a lot. If you're not following us, go follow us. We post some good stuff. Oh man, yikes! So I had them first, which means definitely a bit underachieving. Just a little bit though. I blame CCL, which I should have taken into account, but I think you talked me out of it, so it's your fault again. Yeah,
Are you just gonna blame me every time you have a prediction wrong?
Why do you think you're still a co-host on this show? Otherwise, who do I have to blame?
That's fair. All right, let's move on. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Are you not asking me a question?
Oh, yeah, I should probably ask you a question. Maybe I don't want to ask you a question.
I don't care. It'll speed us along. Doesn't matter to me.
Has Orlando been getting a pass from the CCL slump because of Philly?
No, they're getting a pass because they're not as bad as Philly.
I mean, they're 2 spots off of Philly in the standings and 1 point off of Philly.
Above or below?
They're 1 point above Philly.
Yeah, 2 spots above Philly. They're in a playoff spot.
They're in a play-in.
Yeah, nobody cares. They're still in a playoff spot.
They're
Philly is
They're
not.
1 point ahead of Philly.
So here's the deal. They're ahead of Philly. They're in a playoff spot. Philly is not. Philly also were the perennial Eastern powerhouse, where Orlando was just kind of keeping up with them. Now they both have had that slump, but they have, Philly has slumped harder.
Okay. I somewhat agree. Yeah. I think they don't deserve the CCL slump title as much as Philly, but they definitely, I think, have been sliding under the radar a bit in terms of CCL slump. Now let's move on.
To New York City. I
Yes,
heard the
New York
joke.
City.
Yeah. Go ahead.
New York City currently is 2-3-2, putting them 7th in the East. Best player for me, Gabby Pereira.
Like it. My appreciation of Keaton Parks. So, Keaton Parks is my top player. I think he runs that midfield all 4 yards of it. But no, I think you saw the impact that he had when he was out. It's a big difference without him in that spot. I think if he can stay healthy, because I think he was on the path. Um, January camp is a thing, So let's see how that works.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I don't even think January this guy should be. I mean, if he keeps it up, he should be in contention for that backup spot behind Tyler Adams. There's not a lot of guys in that spot that could back up Tyler.
I
So
just I just don't think he's the same type of player for that system. We still don't have a real system. Let's be real. We don't have a coach, so we don't have a system.
yeah,
But
you're probably right.
uh,
That's maybe you think he plays more like a Weston kind of thing, more box to
yep,
box.
yep, yep,
Makes sense. Yeah, it's probably more of a James Sands role. Is probably more of a Tyler Adams.
yep.
All right, but that's a good pick. I also had I was considering Keaton for top player as well. Most impressive. I've gone for Ilinic here. He's 18 years old. He potentially might have been 17 when the season started. He's played over 300 minutes already and has NYC in a playoff spot. I don't think he's playing anything out of this world. I think he's been like probably average, but considering how young he is and he's been a consistent starter for this team, I think it's been pretty impressive.
I like that. I went with Tyus Magno because he's been in like 4 different attacking positions since the season started, and still has put up some attacking return, which is not easy to do when you're being thrown all over the place. So, impressed with that. I thought he would struggle, and I think he has struggled as a number 9, but moving him back out to a uh, true wide player has been good for him.
Yep, agreed. Least impressive player for me, Matthias Pellegrini. I think I had him as their best signing over the summer. Granted, I still don't think I had it as a great signing, but he is an attacking player for them in a team that's known for good attacking players. And he started every match 550 minutes and he has 0 goals and 0 assists to show for it. So he's been underwhelming to say the least.
I went back to my goalkeepers and picked Luis Barraza. Um, Listen, Sean Johnson is always going to be a big hole to fill. I thought he would be better. I just am not super impressed with the way that he plays. Um, he's not bad by any means, but just very unimpressive to me.
Okay. Okay. I had NYC predicted 11th. So according to my thing, they are overachieving by a little bit. And I kind of feel like that's the case. I think they're probably a bit if they're overachieving, it's slightly. But I could definitely see them in like a just right spot. Like I think probably around the play-in game, maybe low playoff spot is a good spot for them. So I'd say maybe a little bit overachieving.
Yeah, I mean, I have them as overachieving as well. I had them in 12th. I still don't think they've figured out the striker thing completely. They're not winning games that you would think that they would win in other years with, Castellanos up top. And they're not winning away from home, which isn't a shock to anybody, right? So, yeah, overachieving.
Okay.
Your
I think
question is going to be how much farther to right field before they get the ball out of the park.
not that far, probably like 15 feet. My question, I think this will be an easy answer for you. Is this team a number 9 away from being one of the top teams in the East?
No,
Okay. Simple.
their back line isn't it. They're thin. Their goalkeeper is unimpressive. They're bad away from home. Let's just put it at that, right? I don't think they have a win away from home yet, and they're not as dominant at home as they used to be. So, that right there is concerning, personally.
It's almost like when you lose your starting center back and starting goalkeeper and you don't replace him. It hurts the team's performances. Groundbreaking stuff. All right, you ready for the next hint?
Been ready. We only got a couple more teams before this episode's over.
Yes. And next, we're talking about the best team in all of MLS, let alone the Eastern Conference.
We already talked about Red Bull.
No. The real best team.
Charlotte?
A team that's actually in a playoff spot. Just say the name. Just say the name.
I don't know who's in a playoff spot. Oh, Philly.
Oh my
No,
God, I
Philly's out
hate
of a
you.
playoff spot.
We're talking about Atlanta United.
Ugh.
They're 4-2-1 this season to put them in third place in the East. Top player. If you say anything other than Thiago Almada, I will hurt you.
Listen. You've got a couple of former Red Bulls on there that are clear of Thiago Almada.
Do we have any former Red Bulls on this team?
You've got two.
We've 2. That's too many. Can you tell me who is it really? Thiago Almada?
Of course it's Thiago Almada. What type of
I
dumb
need to make
question
sure
is
because
that?
you're loony.
So dumb. Most impressive, easy. Caleb Wiley. If you say anything different, you're dumb.
I did say something different because I expected you to say Caleb Wiley.
Comes out at 18 years old and absolutely balls out. Fantasy differential to the moon.
They've been playing him more at left back though, so he's not as much of a fantasy differential
Gutman
anymore.
got hurt.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help too that I think DEJ is starting to make that spot his own. So I think Caleb's probably getting bumped out. I did not go Caleb Wiley because I figured you would, and I wanted to give some highlights to this player. But Franco Ibarra has been really good for us this season. He has been. I'm not sure if you'll remember this player, but he reminds me a bit of Carlos Carmona when we originally started.
Did you say I may not remember a player?
You telling me you remember every player that's played for Atlanta?
I'm sure if you name dropped I'm sure if you name dropped a random Atlanta player, I could at least remember that he played. Kevin Kratz.
I'm not just gonna name drop random players. But yes, I went with Franco Ibarra. I think he's been great as like a ball winning type midfielder for us this season. Far better than I was expecting because he came in last year, and I feel like we didn't see much to make us think that there was like good potential there. Not to say that he didn't have potential. He's still a young player, but didn't look like things meshed super well with his move to MLS, but he has been fantastic for us this season. I seriously think he has been a huge help for us in the midfield.
Alex Tambaskis.
I remember him, the Greek backup goalkeeper.
Who was the other one that I just saw? Kenwin Jones.
course.
40-year-old Bobby Boswell.
I remember Bobby on here as well. Him and Parky.
Yeah. Yeah,
Man, we should do part 2 of I Can't Believe They Played Here.
that'd be a good one. It's a good off-season episode.
Least impressive player. Who do you got?
I am going with it's probably harsh, but you guys signed Eric Lopez for like $1 billion. Where
$1 billion? What is your concept?
Comparative to the way or the amount that he's played, it might as well have been. This dude's got 25 minutes all season. Like, what is he doing there? Get him off your books.
Listen, if you had any expectations for Eric Lopez coming into the season, then that's on you.
All right, actually, no. What I should do.
We did okay. In fairness, we did buy him for a lot. It looks like this is saying like 3.3 million euros.
Right. It was a big U22 signing. But if I'm picking somebody who I actually like had expectations for, and it might not even be the word expectation, but Tyler Wolff I highlighted as one to watch just because they brought him back from loan. So I thought he might have had an impact somewhere, and he has played 46 minutes.
That's because you highlighted him as an impact player.
Listen, I understand the curse that I hold upon players. Like, I'm not like Kip Keller. I'm sorry. Tyler Wolff, I'm sorry.
Kip Keller, I don't think has played a minute since that game. Yeah, I think you cursed his whole career.
I'm literally the worst type of person.
I think you owe him a check. This was easy for me. Santi Sosa has absolutely been the least impressive for me. They spent nearly $5 million on him. He has not lived up to that price tag, and this season has not changed that at all. He has played 5 times. He's made 1 start. He's 137 minutes. I can't see him getting back into this team. It's been a highly disappointing signing, in my opinion.
Yeah, no disagreements there.
All right, overachieving, underachieving. I had Atlanta 10th because I was smart and did not bet high on my team, so I gave them the shot to actually perform well. Highly overachieving my expectations. I was not expecting much coming off of last year where we struggled a lot, but Thiago Almada has absolutely willed us forward. Plus the return of lots of injury guys like Miles Robinson, who has also been tremendous for us. And getting Brad Guzan back in goal, his leadership is definitely a super important part to this team as well. So definitely doing better than I thought we would.
I also have them at overachieving for a variety of different reasons, but yeah, I mean, listen, we predicted them to be somewhere that they are not, right? And that's what it comes down to. I think I had them 10th. I had them out of the playoffs. So there you go.
All right. My question for you. Think back to a couple weeks ago. Was the performance against Columbus a fluke, or is it a sign of cracks in the system?
Like when they got absolutely smacked.
Yep.
Every team's
one game.
Every team's gonna have a one-off. I mean, you're never going to have I mean, I won't say never, but every team has, right? You're always gonna have that one weird little game where just nothing goes right. So I don't look too far into it.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that one, especially considering we were missing key guys. I mean, no Miles Robinson, no Thiago Almada, no Luis Abrams, no Giacomakis. I mean, these are key guys to our team and our system. So missing them definitely hurt. Did it hurt to the point that we should have lost 6-1? Probably not. I think we were definitely off our game that day. But I would say I don't think it's a sign of cracks in the system. I think it was just a fluke. All right. Next up. How about some pink flamingos? Are they flamingos? I don't remember if they're flamingos.
They are. Are you just picking random Eastern Conference teams?
No, I have a list. You want me to share my screen?
You haven't gone out of the Eastern Conference once.
Yeah, I thought we were doing Eastern Conference in one episode and Western in another. What? We're gonna be here all
Ruin
day if we were to record all of them.
you ruin my day. Consistent. Like
It took
every
you
single day.
13 teams in for you to question that I was only going Eastern Conference teams.
I hate you so much. Yes, we're at Miami. Let's talk about Miami.
All right, Inter Miami. They are 2-0-5 on the season. They are 12th in the East. My top player for them, surprisingly, John Mota. John Mota has been ridiculously good for them this season.
I've got Drake Callender in there. I watched him play a lot over the last couple of weeks, and I mean the saves that he makes to keep them in games are so good.
Yep, that's very fair because Drake Callender is who I had as most impressive. I think last year it was a bit up in the air, the goalkeeper situation. He kind of began to make it his own towards the end of the last season. So I think all eyes were on him. He had the starter spot going into this season. I think he's played really well with it so far.
Who is it? Sorry.
I got Drake Callender as my most impressive.
Okay, so that's what I didn't hear you say most impressive, so I thought you were just building off of that. Mine is Franco Negri. I thought he's been very, very solid and just puts in good shifts. So not necessarily like, how do I phrase this? Like not necessarily like blowing it out of the water. However, he's been one of their better, more consistent players, which is important in a team that has lost 5 straight. So hopefully they can get some more players clicking and doing well.
Cool. Least impressive player. This pains me in my soul.
I knew you were going this way.
Josef Martinez.
Yep.
I think people's expectations probably should have an asterisk, considering he was still coming off of a season with a pretty serious injury. He had a bit of time last season to kind of get back into things, but he was not the same Josef. But still, almost 500 minutes played, 0 goals, 0 assists. You expect more from a guy that absolutely torched the league for years.
Yep. I knew you were going that way, so I went with somebody who I thought was going to have a really good year and has been poor, and that's Rodolfo Pizarro. I think I expected a lot out of him this year, and 1 assist in 500 minutes is not so much that. Granted, he's not doing terribly. I think you're looking at 1.6 key passes a game, so he's getting players in the right position. However, not working so well.
Were you adding something onto that? I couldn't tell.
Nope.
Okay. I couldn't tell if you just cut out. Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I almost had him as well. For me, they are underachieving considering I had them in 8th this season. I was pretty high on Miami coming into the year. Obviously can still jump up into that spot. They're not many points off, but they have been underachieving so far.
Yeah, I mean, so do I. I had them as a playoff team, and they have let me down.
How much you want to bet I talked you into that one?
Well, I mean, listen, I didn't want to say it again, but
I'll say it for you. All right, question for you. Is it time for Miami to call it quits on Pizarro?
no. Like I just mentioned it, so I'm not gonna go too deep into it. But I mean, here's the deal, right? He's getting people in good spots. He's getting people where they need to be. They are not finishing the job. Not his fault.
Listen, all I'm going to say, his expected assisted goals, he's in the 20th percentile of attacking mids and wingers. It's not great on paper. His numbers in attacking...
When I didn't realize we started playing football on paper.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Even in the normal stat sheet, he has 0 goals, 1 assist?
Yep.
He's your star attacking player. Needs to get more than 0 goals, 1 assist.
So I would reckon, my little Kentucky coming out of me there, I'd reckon that the big guy that they just brought from Atlanta is their star attacking player, along with the U22 signing that they just came in from Wolves. Those guys are the big ones.
Pizarro's not.
Pizarro's up there, but I'd say that those two are more important because they're the ones supposed to be finishing the ball.
Can't finish the ball if you don't get any chance creations.
1.6 per game. He's getting at least one chance.
He's got pretty low expected assisted goals. Even in shot creating actions, he's in 40th percentile. Let's move on. I'm ready to be done. Ticket prices through the roof. Charlotte. They are 1, 2, and 4, 14th in the East. Really giving you that value for that $900,000 ticket that you're buying. Top player for me, Enzo Capetti. Kind of self-explanatory.
That's funny. We're gonna have a good conversation about this.
Oh boy, I already know where that's going.
My top player is George Marks, young goalkeeper in the team now. He's bumped. He's had help from a injured Christian Kalina, and he has bumped Cisnega out of that spot, and has done very well to make it his own. So very impressed with him as well. Hint, hint. He's my most impressive player.
Yep, I'm right on board. I had George Marks as well as my most impressive player. But now let's get into it. Least impressive. I can only imagine you have Enzo Capetti here.
Damn right I do.
Listen, I don't think Capetti's been. I don't disagree with your pick. I just don't think anybody on Charlotte has been good.
Let me rephrase that for you. I don't think Enzo Capetti's been great. I just have him as my best player on the team.
That's not saying much for a 14th place team.
Clown show. This is what this is. This is a clown show. Enzo Capetti has come in for this massive price tag and done what? 2 goals and 4 yellow cards? Are we kidding? Double the amount of yellow cards for goals for a striker? What are we talking about?
Listen, he had the big price tag on him. All right, I definitely agree that he hasn't been up to the expectation of the price tag. But who's playmaking for him? Who's setting him up with chances? He has an XG of 1.5. That to me is saying that nobody's setting him up with chances.
No, and listen, you're right on there. They're not creating chances, but you would think that there would be the ability for him to just draw players away from him. I think the coaching has been poor as well, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Bender has not gotten the amount of minutes he probably should have. Whether I don't know if he's been injured or not. Joswiak's been pulled away from the striker's position and played into a wide midfield role, which I think is not Joswiak, Swiderski, as like a attacking midfield role that I don't think has been good. Nuno Santos needs to get more minutes in this team, and he hasn't. And then really you're left with Ashley Westwood being the guy who pulls your strings. That's not great. So lots of coaching decisions have gone wrong in this team. That being said, I still think Capetti's been a little bit underwhelmed.
No, I don't disagree with you. I just think the list of players in terms of top player, I think he's the most talented. I think he's their top goal scorer. I think he's made do with what he's been given. My least impressive is Brant Bronico. From everything I've seen about him, he has not been good this season, and yet he has 6 starts under his belt in 540 minutes. So
we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah,
Brant Bronico being your number one in the 4-1-4-1 shape you're going to run is not a recipe for success.
Hence why they're in 14th.
Yep. Alrighty.
Overachieving, underachieving. Let's do that first.
I don't want to
stay on track. I had them 12th, so it's slightly underachieving, but also just about right.
I had them in the playoff picture. I think I had them 10th, but in the playoff picture. So, oh no, I had them 8th. Goodness me. So definitely underachieving.
Okay. All right. Question for you. We talked about this a little bit, but should Latanzio be on the hot seat?
Yes. Easy. Absolutely. 100%. This team had too much potential that, and I just mentioned it a little bit ago, for those of you who may not have been listening. This team is not where they are because of the talent that they have. This team is where they are because the coaching decisions are letting them. You've got a coach who is not playing players where they're supposed to, whether it be injuries or whatever, because I don't know their injury history. But, Nuno Santos is one of the more promising players in this team, and he's been coming off the bench consistently. He's just recently started getting some starts. Like I said, Swiderski playing in the attacking mid role instead of as a striker is not great. Malanda has played every minute of every game and been brutally bad. You're right. Veronica's been poor. Nathan Burns been terrible. Just decisions that are letting them down. So absolutely on the hot seat.
Yep, I agree with you, and I think the Charlotte faithful will probably agree as well. Let's move on to our last and final team. Do I even need to give you a hint? Let's see if you remember who's left. What are you doing?
You're such a Euros. We're going to Philly.
Is that like a Philly song or something?
Oh, bro, are you kidding? How are we doing an entire MLS history series and you don't know about Dupe?
I started following in 2015. What do you expect?
I literally you make me so angry.
You think I just study MLS history in my free time?
I literally send you these things. You should be.
I don't look at what you send me. Come on. Philadelphia Union. What a team to finish this up on. Philly are currently 2-1-4, 10th place in the East. Highly disappointing season so far for Philly. Top player for me, I've got Gazdag.
Top player for me, I've got Gazdag, but only when he's not in my fantasy team. Whenever he's in my fantasy team. So
that's fantastic. I love that. Okay, good. I'm glad we're in agreement. Most impressive player. I think we're gonna disagree on this one, so why don't you kick it off? Who do you got?
Impressive player? I've got Joaquin Torres.
Yeah, I figured that.
Very, very, for a guy that I was not sure about coming into the season, how he was going to fit, how he's going to work with the team. Very impressed with his usage. Now, again, not super impressive season so far, but he's done well in the roles that he's been put.
Yeah, that's I think it's a good shout, honestly. He was my number 2 choice for this one. But I'm going with my own propaganda here. Going for Andres Pereira. Super small sample size. He hasn't played a lot of games, kind of similar to Torres. But when he has played, he's played really well. And that includes 3 goals in all competitions so far for Philly, which I think puts him like close to, if not the top goal scorer for Philly this season. Which is surprising because that's not exactly his style of play. I think he's more of a defensive midfielder. So I think he's been a great addition for them. I think him and Torres both have been fantastic depth addition pieces. I think it's really just been the starters that haven't been up to par this season. And maybe that's partly CCL. I think we'll be able to tell once that's all wrapped up. But my least impressive player, I went for Mbaizo here. I feel like Mbaizo, since he's been in Philly, has been a little bit underwhelming. And from the numbers that I was seeing from him this season, they didn't look great. I mean, Philly's known for the last couple seasons of being rock solid defensively. And this season, they've conceded 9 goals. From what I saw, it looked like Jack Elliott and Gleesnes were pretty, like, they seemed like they were fine. They're definitely not at their best. Same thing with Kai Wagner. So I figured, it's probably coming from Mbaizo. And when I looked at it, his defensive numbers didn't look great on FBref. So I went with him.
I think we both were expecting a lot out of Jack McGlynn this year. And I think he has been pretty under. We
Yeah.
talked about how with the rotation and the CCL, he was going to have a big opportunity to make this spot his own, raise his stock, all this good stuff. And he just hasn't taken. He's been super underperforming, and he's been meh. He's been mid, right? So young, lots of time to improve, but for now, that's where I'm at.
It's a bit harsh. Hasn't really been given a chance yet this season. Again, like 30-minute substitute appearances.
Well, that's my point, right? He's had this opportunity, hasn't taken.
Anyway, let's move through this part pretty quick. Underachieving, obviously.
They're completely overachieving, you're right.
This is the point in the show where I will not tolerate your stupid, sarcastic comments anymore. Underachieving. We both have underachieving. That's fantastic. Go team. My question for you, is it worth it to slump in the regular season to potentially succeed in CCL?
Yeah, 100%. That's a stupid question. You go to CCL and you win CCL, you go and play against the best teams in the world. You drop CCL to go back to MLS and be good in MLS, you just get to go back and play against the best teams at CCL. So absolutely worth the drop. 100%.
Well, there's no guarantee that you win CCL. So you can tank.
You were just
regular
asking
season.
me if we tank to go at it. Yeah, it's worth it. Because great. Now you're gonna make me go back and say this. What happens if you finish dead last in MLS, right?
Oh no. We're not doing this at this point. We're not doing this at this point. We're so far into this episode. I'm not doing a pro rel discussion this deep in. Not doing it. And therefore, I will not answer your question.
Then that's my point, right? Just turn around and try it again.
All right, fair point. All right, that's all I had. Wrap us up.
All right, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you had a really good time listening to this way too long breakdown of the Eastern Conference quarter way through the season. Let us know what you think about some of our choices, mainly Connor's, because we know those are wrong. And make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to all of us, our social medias. Go look up the Designated Players podcast literally anywhere except MySpace. We don't have a MySpace, unfortunately. But everywhere else we are. So go look us up, follow us, interact with us, and we will see you on the next episode of the Designated Players podcast. See ya.